Hello, and welcome to a weaving adventure. Do you ever have that feeling when you have an idea enter your brain and you just literally cannot think of anything else? I'm kind of going through a little bit of that right now, so I thought it'd be fun to just turn on the camera and start this project together completely from scratch. So to make a really long story short, I stumbled across this photo right here, which is something I made maybe 5 years ago now. It was quite a long time ago. I made this piece at a weaving studio where I was just digging through their scrap yarn stash, and I found this really crazy loopy textural novelty yarn, that yellow kind of coily thing you see there. I totally fell in love with it, but there was only a very small amount in this scrap stash, so I grabbed all of it and I used it just as a little accent in this weaving. And I think it's just so funny. It's so 3D, it's so textural. So years later, I'm at either a Joann's or Michael's or something, and I happen to find more of that exact yarn. And it's just been sitting in my stash for ages, untouched. Fast forward to today's date, I need to create a piece for an art exhibition, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. The whole theme of that exhibition is touch and the idea of actually being able to touch the artworks that are on the wall. So I was sitting at my desk and I was trying to think okay, what can I do for this touch theme? And then I literally look over and I see that loopy yarn just sitting at the top of my stash. How did it get there? I have no idea, but it was just right there. And that to me was just a sign that it's time to finally use it. So let me grab that real quick. Ta-da! I got it in this amazing royal blue color. This is Yarnspiration's Bernat Alize Blanket Easy. And I guess the whole point in this yarn is that you're supposed to be able to make a blanket or make some kind of an object without using knitting needles or a crochet hook. You just use your hands and you loop these giant loops together, I guess. But I'm not doing that. I'm gonna use this as the start of a fun and funky, crazy tactile weaving project. So let's try to figure out exactly what we're gonna do with this. Okay, so with this yarn in hand, I started exploring my yarn stash just to see if anything spoke to me that felt like it really wanted to go with this blue crazy yarn. So holding up this yarn, I kind of feel like there's a cone that's immediately speaking to me, and it's this one right here. It's this glittery kind of pom-pom yarn that features the exact same royal blue alongside some red, green, and purple. So I kind of feel like maybe we have our color palette right here. Okay, it's been a little while now and I've been collecting and curating, and I think I finally have my official yarn lineup for this project. So as you saw, we started with this blue loopy crazy novelty yarn. So I just found a couple more blues that went with it and actually found a pretty close color match. These are just some random knitting yarns that I think I got at someone's de-stashing at a guild. It is Petite Knit Double Sunday, and these are 100% merino wool. So we got the blue covered, and then my next thing that I did in my process that you saw was that I found this pom-pom yarn that I thought was a really fun match. So I pretty much just dug through my stash and tried to find yarns that matched the pom-pom colors the best that I could, and I actually think I was able to do a really good job with color matching. So first off, we have green pom-poms, so I found some green yarns. This one here is a cone of 100% cotton, and this one here is a really fluffy mohair-ish blend. I'm not really sure exactly what's in it. I seem to have lost the label, but I did buy this yarn when I was in Serbia visiting my family. Then for the purple pom-poms, I found this chenille yarn right here. This is a rayon chenille, and I actually got it at this yarn store closing mega clearance kind of thing. I just impulsively picked it up because I like the color, and who would have thought that it would have been the perfect color match for this project? Then of course for the red pom-poms, I have my trusty neon red Angora yarn, which you guys have seen me use in a lot of my projects. I got this yarn absolutely ages ago, and so it makes an appearance in a lot of things that I make, and it's also a wonderful color match. And then last but not least, I am including some black in this project just because this pom-pom yarn has a black thread that's kind of holding everything together. I thought black would also be a fun color to bring out. So I have this cone of Silk Noil from Just Yarn, and then this cone of Debbie Bliss Baby Cash Merino, which was also a secondhand de-stash from somebody in my life at some point. It's been in my stash for literally forever, so I'm excited to finally give it some purpose. Okay, so we have our yarns, and now it's time for the first step of the weaving process, which is to make a warp. This is that part of the project where I was telling you that I had a really specific idea that just wouldn't leave my brain. So let me try to explain the vision that I have in my head. So basically when you make a plaid, you make a warp that has really distinct and very precisely planned out stripes. And then you basically just turn your warp on its side and weave those exact stripe patterns as your weft. So first I'm gonna make a warp out of these yarns, and I'm gonna specifically use all of the smooth ones of this collection. So my warp is gonna be all nice and smooth and colorful, but then when it comes time to weave the weft, I'm gonna sub out those smooth yarns for all the crazy ones. And I think what that should create is kind of like a 3D, funky, textured, hairy, fluffy, loopy, colorful plaid, and I'm really excited about the thought of that. Off camera, I started sketching what I think I want my plaid design to look like, and basically to do this, I just like Googled plaid and tartan designs and just kind of found a couple that spoke to me and like combined some ideas and took out some ideas and just tried to make it my own. So this definitely isn't like a reference to a specific plaid or a specific tartan. This was just like me messing around with the idea of a plaid. I drew out some stripes, then I figured out how many threads I would want for each one of the stripes, and I did some math, and I think we're gonna try to make this. This might not make like literally any sense to anyone but myself right now, but trust this process. I think it's gonna be fun. So let's get to it. So basically, to wind this warp, I followed my pattern and I looped individual strands of yarn around my warping board over and over and over again. And when it was time to switch colors, I cut the color that I was working with and simply tied on the next color and kept going. This was definitely a long and tedious process because my warp was a total width of 290 threads. So that means I had to loop around 290 times. One really important thing about winding a warp is that when I'm looping the threads around and around, I'm making sure to really intentionally create a spot in the warp where the threads crisscross together. This cross is a crucial part of making a warp because it keeps all the yarns organized in the precise stripe pattern that I very intentionally designed and meticulously wound on. It's super important to keep an eye on this crisscross and to make sure that it doesn't get messed up by, let's say, accidentally dropping it and losing that cross when you're trying to put it onto the loom, because as you can imagine, that would be horribly inconvenient. So remember how I said it's really important to not drop the cross when you're threading your loom? I dropped the cross. This was supposed to be like a really fun, easy, chill weaving project, and basically when you lose that cross in your warp, it turns your very nicely, precisely organized warp threads into just like a jumble of complete nonsense, which is made especially more frustrating when I had this warp that's like really precisely planned out. Like every thread has its exact place, and I'm also working with like really sticky, really weird threads, so things knotting up is just like honestly the most frustrating thing that could have happened. I had full intentions of filming like a nice little threading montage where I show you the whole process of me like pulling all the threads through the loom and the nice like satisfying visual of beautiful yarns doing their beautiful thing. But these beautiful yarns were definitely not doing their beautiful thing. They were being an absolute nightmare. But I threaded it. I got through it. Thankfully from here it should be smooth sailing, knock on wood, that everything else goes right. So let's wind my bobbins and then we can start weaving. Alrighty, it's finally time to start weaving, and now I'm gonna weave my weft in the same pattern that my warp has been created in. So first, I'm gonna start with purple, and then in my warp I have 12 threads of purple, so I'm gonna start with 12 threads in my weft. So that's 12. Next up, I'm gonna just follow the sequence kind of from this point forward. So it'll be green, blue, green. For my green, I'm gonna try this really fuzzy yarn and I'm gonna see how I like it. And I'll do 6 picks of this one. Okay, I actually really like that green a lot. It gives it like a very subtle kind of green halo, and I think that's gonna go really well with my whole idea of just like combining texture. Next in the sequence is blue, so I'm just gonna grab this giant blue thing. I'm gonna measure out about the width of my project, plus a little extra on the ends. Give that a snip. And then I'm just gonna feed this in by hand. And then to really make this yarn sing, I'm just gonna pull the loops to the front of my weaving. I'm gonna change sheds, beat. Then I'm just gonna tuck in the edges so that they're secured and this yarn will not go anywhere. And then I'm gonna do 6 more rows of my green. So next up is more purple. Oh, and I'm also, normally I don't really care about these ends and I'll just snip them at the end of my project, but for this one I am gonna just tuck these in to the next row so they're extra secure and then snip them later. I think I might make a couple of these blue stripes just with the same yarn that I used in the warp, just to break things up a bit. I love these loops, but I think it would kind of make them pop a little more if they weren't there every single time, if that makes sense. I am loving this so far. It is just the right amount of kind of traditional plaid look with complete absurdity, which is exactly what I was hoping for. I'm just gonna kind of randomly throw in some solids and some loopy bits just to kind of like have both featured in the scarf. And I'm really, really excited to see how this turns out. Wait a minute, oh my God. Okay, so I'm only now seeing this in the camera viewfinder, but I actually have an error in my warp pattern. Ah! So you can see I have like kind of 1-inch stripes. And then this guy here is like half the width. I honestly don't know if anyone would have even noticed that had I not said anything, but I see it. I unfortunately don't think there's literally anything I can do about it right now or that I want to do about it, so I'm just gonna leave it as a design element. Even with that, I am so happy with how this is turning out. So let's keep weaving. So I'm now maybe about like a third of the way through my scarf, so I figured it'd be a good moment to take a little bit of a break and to also tell you a little bit about what it is that I'm actually making this for. So I recently started working for this really cool local nonprofit called Intertwine Arts, which is based in New York City. And this whole organization's purpose is to share the joys of weaving with people with disabilities and chronic illnesses. And honestly, it's been such a dream job. Like, I basically just get to hop from program to program and help really cool people make really beautiful things with yarn. Normally, I don't like to share a whole lot of my professional work life here on YouTube just because I really like to keep those two worlds separate. But I wanted to tell you guys about my involvement with this organization just because I think that what they're doing is really, really cool, and it's a cause that I'm really, really proud to be a part of. So anyway, what does that have to do with this scarf? Every year, Intertwine Arts puts on this really big community weaving exhibition called Woven Together, and they invite the program artists and the teaching artists and just like members of the community to contribute. So as a teaching artist, I was invited to put something on display. The general idea is that this exhibition is basically going to celebrate all the beautiful ways that people experience the world through the sensation of touch. So when people enter the gallery space, they're not only going to be able to see really beautiful artworks, but they're also going to get the chance to actually touch them and in some cases put them on. So it's going to be a very beautiful, interactive, textural, touch-related exhibition. So when I first heard that theme, I knew that I really wanted to create something that featured a lot of texture contrasts. So that's why in this project I'm featuring a lot of just like really random yarns. I have yarns that are super smooth, yarns that are super fluffy, things that are on the rougher side, and then of course this like gigantic novelty loopy blue yarn. My goal was basically just to create a really cool sensory experience. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a better idea of what it is that I've been trying to achieve with this piece, and I'm really excited to put it on display and to see how people interact with it. But first, I have to finish it, so let's get back to the weaving. After I wove until I could no longer weave anymore and I was at the end of my warp, I removed the fabric from the loom. And then I tied and hand twisted the fringes of the scarf. I just love the look of twisted fringe. Then I wet finished the scarf by soaking it in a warm bath of water and a gentle textile soap. I also decided to rough it up a bit in the water just to encourage some of those fuzzier yarns to bloom and to come to life. Love this thing so much. I decided to title this piece Muppet Plaid, which feels appropriate, don't you think? It's just totally absurd and it makes me smile looking at it. And it also just feels so satisfying to run your hands through it and to experience all of the different textures. If you want to see and touch this piece along with all the other amazing artworks from the Intertwine community, definitely come by the exhibition at Positive Exposure Gallery during the month of September. I'll put all of the links to the event info in this video's description. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you in my next textile adventure. Bye!